welcome everyone to episode 92 of Today in the Scene. I'm Joe with Indie Arcade Wave, and I just want to say thank you for checking us out. If you like what we're doing here at Indie Arcade Wave, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Helps us a ton, helps us grow, and we can just keep riding the wave. So this week we're going to dive back into arcades. It's been, 2-3 weeks since we've talked about arcades. And I'm going to talk to Ashe, who's the co-owner of Beercade2 in Omaha, Nebraska, and his bar manager, Andy. And we're just going to dive into this arcade. I went a couple weeks ago and we played in the Killer Queen tournament, the first one we ever played in, showed off Galactic Battleground and had an absolute blast here. So here's Ashe and Andy. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm glad to talk to you guys finally. Ashe, we've been talking about it for a little bit here. And Andy, I hadn't even met you yet, and Ashe was like, he's our video game nerd. He knows way more than I do, so I'm really happy that we were able to get you on here too to chat.
Yeah, that's not a green screen behind me.
He's got the whole setup and everything behind him. So we'll just jump right in. Beercade2 is what we're talking about, and I love the shirt. I've got the sticker, super dope. But let's just have you guys introduce yourselves. So what do you do? Where'd you get started? Stuff like that.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Ashe Preheim. I had started a beercade up in Benson here in Omaha 12 years. Well, I moved here 12 years ago to build it and open it as a general manager and ended up buying in. And now we are opening our second location here in Omaha. We've been here for not quite 3 years, but my path here has been long and I've learned a lot, but I've also realized that it's a lot more work than I thought, but I still love it. And so it's a pretty great job to just show up and have fun at work. And I can't say that there's many of those that I've had in my past.
Yeah. And my name is Andy. I started basically when Beercade2 was like still in the planning phases. I had been trying to break in to Beercade for a long time, but there's tons and tons of loyal employees there that were never going to leave. So basically my first chance to get in there was once Beercade2 started getting talked about, and I made it a point to make sure that Ashe knew that I wanted to work there because I am very into arcades. As Ashe said, I bought my first Miss Pac-Man when I was like 16 years old, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like you've got a good fit there, Andy, and Ashe, you've got a good guy behind the bar. Let's just dive a little bit deeper into how Beercade started. Like you said, you were a general manager at the first one, and then you branched off to the second one. Like, where did that all begin, and when were you like, I need to run my own, and how did you go about doing it?
Well, this might be a little long, but essentially I was asked, I've worked for behind the bar as a bartender for many years for my two partners that I have here. And actually really just the one, but we have a 20 plus year history of me working for him, and his name's Alex. And then his partner John came back from Iraq and I think he just had some capital that he was willing to invest. So he kind of moved from Lincoln is a city just down an hour away from here in Omaha, and that's where I'm from. And at the time, they were like, hey, we like your work ethic. We think you could do a good job running a bar. We want to open a new Jake's. And that's a bar that they had for a long time. And without going into all of that stuff, essentially they were like, hey, we have an idea. We just want to open this cigar bar. And I said, I'm in, I'll move. And then I said, but what about if we do this? Now, its planning phase was like 2009. This is, before we even, we didn't have a place yet. It was just a thought. And so I was like, well, this is my idea. Let's open an arcade that's just like a throwback to what we used to love, but it sells beer. We thought, we weren't the first one to come up with this idea, of course, but it was pretty early on. And then at some point I got their approval and they're like, let's do it. And we ended up opening this really small location. And I think we had 4 pins and 14 arcades. What's funny is when I remember looking back at those days, I'm like, what were we thinking? Why did we think that was going to work? But it did. And so we unlocked our doors that was 2000, 2000 March of 2012, I believe. And then 2 years later, we realized we made a mistake. We didn't have enough square footage. So then we actually moved that location just one door down when my partners had the capital to buy the building that came up for sale next door. And then that was where Beercade and Benson is now. And then, there was a long 8 more years of me working there before I was like, hey guys, like, I got to get it in the skin in the game, or we're going to have to find a new GM. And they had to ponder that because, I mean, it's, we got to find a new location, blah, blah. So they said no to that spot. And I said, well, let's do another one then and cut me in. And that was kind of the progression. So I know that I could seriously talk about that for like an hour about how difficult that those 10 years were. But the brief statement was that I was kind of burning out, and I was like, I'm not going to do this I need to have skin in the game. And that really is how it ended up. And so here we are, and it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to get another location and get everything figured out and get a little more presence in it. And you have a little more freedom with this location. I remember talking to you when we were there for the tournament that you didn't really think that they would go for a killer queen at the other location, but at this one you had the freedom to put it in and try it out and run tournaments.
Sure.
And I was talking to Andy about getting the capture card and everything. When did you get involved, Andy? And like you mentioned that you wanted to get into the first Beercade, but
Totally.
you couldn't. Why were you so interested in Beercade?
That is an easy answer, and that is because I am absolutely just in love with arcade games. I always have been. I mean, I'm a console gamer too, obviously, but my life has always been about arcades. I mean, when I was younger, when I got my driver's license just so I could go to the arcade more often. Essentially, we would show up there at night, play DDR or whatever, and then move upstairs. They had a room at the arcade in Omaha that was a classics room, and we would play Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Gauntlet, stuff like that. And that's just kind of been my life forever. And then I started drinking, and then all of a sudden the arcade bar concept shows up, and I was like, well, that's where I need to be, obviously. I was working at a spot right down the street from Beercade. I would show up at Beercade every day. Right after my shift, I worked lunch, and I would always basically complain to Ashe about how I didn't like their work ethic at the place that I worked at, and kind of just trying to tell him like, hey, if I worked for you, I would give it my all, and apparently it works, I guess. So that's my story.
Brought you in as the bar manager, and now you get to work at Beercade 2. So
Which I love every day of that. I
didn't make it over to Beercade 1. The first one, it's a little bit out of the way from where we were, staying super close to Beercade 2. And with everybody there for KQ, why would we even need to go to the other one?
Yeah.
I guess
there's a few reasons. Funhouse would be one answer to that question in my mind, but
I guess kind of going off what you said originally with DDR being the first thing you played to, that was the first thing I went to in Beercade 2. Like I was like, I haven't seen a DDR in an arcade for too long, gotta play it. Walk me through the games you guys have. Like I know you have a pretty good selection of pins. You've got an indie, you've got some old stuff. Let us know what you have and why people should visit.
I'll start that one. I'll let Annie take it after this, but
yeah,
there is kind of I call it curating. I know maybe that's a little too, too much, but I feel like a lot of places are too focused old school or too focused new school. I mean, we have a Dave & Buster's in town here, and and they have great stuff. I love that place. But like, do they have like eyes? So there is a thing here. There is a conscious decision when allowed that what is working in the shop to bring in, and it's not all because I'll tell you if I took DDR out, I would hear there would be no end to the complaints. But if I brought in, or if I took Galaga out, the same complaint would happen. So there is kind of, we got to appeal to, I mean, I'm 46, and we have a much older clientele than me, and I'm like, man, where are all the cool old games? But so there is some rhyme and reason that it's kind of a mixed bag, and that is intentional. Um, and I hear, we hear complaints all day that, oh, why did you take this game out? Well, usually it's because it broke, and we needed to put it in the shop and recap monitor, I mean, a myriad of problems. Um, but what comes back in is hopefully to kind of replace that, um, the missing part of where that era was. So it's a mixed bag here, but nothing's super modern. You're not going to find, Luigi's Mansion or some, I don't know, 3D glasses game or anything like that. So I'll let Andy take the rest from that.
Well, I'm just honestly, I'm happy that you mentioned eyes, because that's totally the first one I'm going to mention. I met some people yesterday that were from another arcade bar, which I love when that happens. And my question is always like, what is the game that you have that you're like, like what's your mascot game? Obviously, like Attack from Mars, as far as pinball goes, or Galaga as far as arcade games go, like those are like two of the best of the types of games that they are. But what's cool is when you have a game that not everybody else has. I always notice when people are traveling to our arcade, they spend a lot of time playing Popeye and roller games. Two pinball machines that we love. Not everybody loves. There's definitely some haters out there, but it always kind of pleases me to see people playing that, because I know the reason why they are is because anybody that has good credit can start their own arcade bar and just get whatever the 8 newest Stern pinball machines are, and a Buck Hunter or whatever. Anybody could do that, but you have to get something like roller games or Popeye. You got to know the pinheads, and we do. So I was planning on talking about eyes, which I do believe is our best success story ever. But those pinballs, the obscure pinballs, are some of my favorites. But the important thing is we also have all the bases covered: Galaga, Pac-Man, Attack from Mars, Adams Family Pinball is one of our most recent additions that we're super happy about too.
I noticed that right away.
That was one of the happiest days of my entire Beercade2 career. Except that it was in a basement, and it was really hard to get out. But aside from that, and that it broke right away. All right. Well, that's my answer.
Gotcha.
So, another thing about the pinball too is that a lot of, there's pinball's kind of coming back. I mean, there's a lot of bars that you can go play one or two machines at. And yes, of course, they're all routed, brand new Sterns. And it's not that I dislike those games. It's just that there's so much more that people haven't been exposed to that are really great games. And I mean, obviously they're not cheap. So, I always weigh I am proud of our pinball lineup here because, and it is mostly Bally, Midway, Williams. Older focused. However, it's not because I'm not in love with some Stern games. It's just that they're so common that I kind of want a lineup that's a little more unique. That because we could go down the last like 12, 20 Stern games that came out, and I could tell you exactly where to go to play them. And I can't tell you where to go play roller games or even Junkyard or, even Adam's Family. And so that is another focus of our pinball lineup, is kind of like, let's not just get the newest thing every time. Let's travel a little bit and pick something up that we know is good.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point because, I mean, like Andy said, I noticed right away when you guys had that Adams Family, I was like, this is cool. And I also noticed that you had the Guns N' Roses from Jersey Jacks. I don't think I've ever seen a Jersey Jacks machine in an arcade. And when I spoke to him, he said that the target is definitely the home market. Like, that's who they're aiming for. And it's cool to
Right.
see it in an arcade because I couldn't get my hands on it. You know, I don't have
Right.
15, 20 grand to buy the cabinet. So playing it there was really cool. And I was happy to see that. And I thought it was cool that you guys are still on quarters. Not a lot of arcades are doing that anymore, especially arcades that also serve alcohol. They usually just do like a free play or you buy 2 drinks, whatever you're in. What games do you guys notice that earn really, really well? Like for someone who's just starting to open an arcade, what games are you like, you should put this in just to kind of get over the initial hump of starting, and this game will consistently earn you money?
Well, and again, granted, every market's different, so that's going to be uh, it's going to be unique to your market. But skee ball here is just like I can't. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, if I had to open just a skee ball bar, it might actually work. I don't know,
I do think it
but
would.
but skee ball definitely earns that 4-player Pac-Man from Namco is just always consistent, always great. Return on investment is through the roof. Um, as far as like, I mean, pinball is so much maintenance that it's really hard to quantify exactly what your income is on it because you're underneath it every day, and it's also just a giant headache, which is I'm okay with because I love what I do. But like, if you are faint of heart, like that will be if you have to pay a guy every time to come out and like call him and wait, and if you don't have the keys, like if you don't own the machine and you have just some guy come out and route it, yeah, like it's I mean balls are air balls, everything about pinball is super complicated and hard to maintain, but they do earn pretty well. And like I said, I don't know how to quantify what the maintenance on it is. You just like have a back room full of parts. You just go grab what you need when you need it. But at some point, you're like, I can tell you a really funny story. One day, old Beercade days, one of our really good players came in and put 50 cents in one game, and something went wrong. I think it was a flipper or something. And he's like, oh, whatever. He moves. I refund him. He moves to the next game. He broke something on that, and then moved to the next game. And this happened to be the day after or the day that I actually counted the money down on all of them. So there's no quarters inside. And I'm fixing them right behind this guy. And not only did I refund him, but there was $1.50 in the 3 games that he broke. And I was like, this literally, I have like over $80 worth of parts, never mind my time that I'm going to have to throw into these 3 games. And I'm like, is this actually worth it? I mean, obviously that was a bad day, but that's just part of how it is. So as far as like, what does pinball actually earn is, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. I have a number of what it makes, but if I was starting out, I would say skee ball. If you skip skee ball, at least in Omaha, man, you missed out. Um, 4-player Pac-Man's always good. Uh, the shooting games. Everybody loves a shooting game. It's something you can't do at home. Pretty much the stuff you can't play at home. If it's not on the Super Nintendo, you got to at least play it a couple times, right?
Good point.
So why skee ball, Andy? Why do you think it earns so much money?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the answer to that must lie within the fact that I still like pretty much every single day that I work, I will throw some skee balls. Why? I don't know. There's something about it that is just part of the arcade experience. Also, it like is the most inviting game for like there are a lot of people that show up at our bar where there's like, oh, I'm too old, I don't know any of this. I'm like, skee ball. And even if you don't, you're just rolling a ball into a hole. It's fun. There's something about it. And the it's also like a really good we win best first date every single year in like the Best of Omaha thing. And I gotta believe that is totally skee ball, because we see people playing skee ball together. It's like it's common ground. Like nobody is like, well, I'm not gonna play Street Fighter against you because you're a gamer, But if I'm not a gamer, there's still a chance I could roll my balls slightly better. That sounds weird phrasing, I guess, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. It's approachable. I mean, who's really actually consistent at skee ball? Like most people can walk up to a Street Fighter and within seconds if they play Street Fighter or not. But skee ball, you get lucky, you get points. You
We
guys
had
already
one.
talked about being curators of the arcade and having a really unique selection. In my eyes, I've been to a couple dozen arcades in the last few years, and it's a very, very unique collection of games, and I think it was a great collection. Um,
Thank you.
but I'm sure with where you guys are at, you're still on the hunt for something. So what's the holy grail? If you ran into it, doesn't matter price or anything, what would you grab to put in the arcade? And I know
Well,
Ash is thinking now.
Yeah,
well,
who's
here's
listening
the
is like
price
the
is the
people
big
that are
thing.
listening know that what I know. The what I'm trying to say is that cool. They know that like my offer is going to be too low. That's what I.
Yeah.
So just ignore me. I'm not.
Well, so like the thing is price. What you were talking about with Jersey Jack earlier. He's totally admitting to the fact that he is marketing primarily to the home market, which was not a thing that happened back in the day. In the 90s, I mean, like, there weren't a lot of people buying their own arcades or pinballs for their basement, but now there are. And if there's a game that you love that you just want to play every day for the rest of time, you might pay a crazy amount of money. We have expectations for everything that we put in the bar. I mean, like, there's tons of things that we would love to put in there that are not going to earn. And you have to have a little bit of like faith that that thing is going to eventually pay for itself. So a lot of these games, like the Holy Grail games. I mean, for me, like Star Wars, the arcade game from Atari would be one,
Like the
and
cockpit one?
the which one?
The cockpit?
Well, yeah, I guess if I had to choose, totally the cockpit. But I mean, like that's something that is just never going to happen, because like the amount of money that we would have to pay for that, it would take 10 years for that thing to pay for itself in quarters. And how many times do you think it would go to the shop in that time? Probably quite a few. Although I guess if price is not an option, that'd be one. And then, or if price is not part of the equation, I would say that for arcades, and then Circus Voltaire for pinball. And if
Well,
anybody
wait.
from Chicago Gaming Company is watching right now, we hope very much that your next remake is Circus Voltaire.
So this is why Andy's such a great like manager here, is because he gets what's nostalgic, what's cool, and he also gets to privy of what people play. So he, when he's like, oh, I found this, we'll just say Qbert in Kansas City. They only want 2,500 for it. I'm like, Andy, that will never ever take a quarter. You know this. And he's like, yeah, but we want it, right? And I'm like, yes, we do, but we can't afford it. Like,
Yeah.
So, you have to like. There's a lot on my list, but that price is huge.
Yeah, your list is Qbert and Burger Time are the two. Those are the big ones.
Excuse me.
We've never had Qbert. We've had all the important ones. We've had between our two bars, Missile Command, Asteroids, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, all the important ones. I would say the two that we've never had that we're always looking for, but they're always ridiculous in price.
Burger Time, Gauntlet. Spy Hunter.
Oh,
I mean,
there might be a way
I've been to many auctions where I'm like, yes, bid, 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 and then I'm like, wait, all right, this is getting real expensive because then you got your taxes and the fees and all
The
that,
closing
and
auction fees, all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, wait, and then you look at who's bidding against you, and it's just some dude that just wants it so bad for himself. And I'm like, this is still a business for us, so I just can't, like, as much as like I've seen some crazy arcades that were so small compared to like some of these places that have that kind of income, and they're charging at the door or they got the card swipes or whatever that they can kind of just gouge, and that's just not what we're about. So, and I don't want to change that. I really don't want us to be and also, like, we are just too small. Like, we're about, I think we're like 5,500 square feet. We need like, I mean, like 20,000 square feet if we're going to have all of that kind of cool stuff. So for every cool game that I think is great, something's got to go. And like, yes, does Shinobi make quarters a lot? No, it does not. But it's a cool game, and we have it, and you can play it. So there's got to, we're there's a little bit of that aspect that, like, if you really want to have the most bang in arcade, you just have to have all that square footage, and how you run your business is a lot different than the way we do ours. So unfortunately, my A-list stuff is just mostly out of our price range at this point, because there's only a finite amount of games left in the world. That's just the way it is.
Well, now I feel so spoiled because we've got Starcade right up, 20 minutes away from me. And if you guys know, like, Paradise Arcade, they've got the Star Wars cockpit, they've got Burger Time, they've got Cubert, they've got Spy Hunter, they've got, like, I've posted videos on TikTok of these, and they just have this like ridiculous 100+ game collection. We were just in Milwaukee for it's like 2 months ago for Midwest Gaming Classic, and they bought a Cyberball just because like it was cool and they thought they wanted
We
one.
want that
I
game.
love
Yeah,
that game.
that game
We
is
love that
so
game.
crazy.
Ugh,
But
I am super jelly.
I would break some of my own rules to buy that game. I would say.
I think they got it
for your garage?
No, for our bar.
1,800, 2,000 maybe, something like that. I was like, that
That,
seems it's like right in the ballpark of what it usually goes for.
Was it a cocktail table one?
No, it was the 4-player stand up.
2 monitors?
Yeah,
or 1 monitor?
2 monitors.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
man.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good deal.
They got a steal on that one. Let's talk
Yeah.
indies really quick before we wrap everything up. So,
Please.
Killer Queen, you got a Killer Queen. You ran your first tournament, which I thought went super well. I mean, obviously, I wasn't behind the scenes, so I don't know all the little stuff that was happening. But from my side, playing in the tournament, it was super enjoyable, really fun. What was it like running your first tournament, and what did you learn from that you're going to maybe tune up or fix for the next one?
Well, yeah. So that game is really, we've been trying to nurture it. Obviously, the pandemic has just thrown a wrench in everybody's game or whatever. So we only had like 6 months to kind of start our little small community here in Omaha, but we were well on our way. And then, I mean, it's the only game that you are like insanely close quarters that it's not even. Obviously, it scared a lot of people away. So we lost about 50% of our community when we were allowed to reopen, and actually that was one of the games that we just had off for a long time. So I want to start with that. I'm really proud of the way that we did with our tournament, considering that we had all of like really like only like 9 months to rebuild it again. And we're lucky that Josh Ecklow and some of Michael Pack and some of the people that are really adamant and really, I mean, they're running the Facebook groups and the stuff that I just don't have time to do, and Andy doesn't have time to do, just essentially building a community. And so because Josh Ecklow is from Chicago, and that's obviously where the game's from, it's got huge following, he really nailed it and put together reaching out to, we had people from all over the place, Minnesota, Arizona, and Texas, and I don't even know all the
I met
places.
somebody from like San Fran, and I think if I remember correctly, it was like at least 9 states. Like there was a good mix of people there.
We
Yeah,
had
and
Jacksonville too.
Yep.
yeah, and so that's how cool that community is, and I am
They're all
super jealous that they have that and we don't, kind of. So in a weird way, those people are also, they're so crazy good that it's like they put us to shame. But overall, we didn't get a lot of I don't know, we learn as we go, and that I feel like we pulled off pretty well. And it was a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie, just from the streaming standpoint and all that stuff. Like, I've got my head in a pinball game, or I'm, replacing capacitors in the shop. I'm not streaming guy, social media guy. So it was a huge community effort, and I definitely need to throw shout outs to all the people that helped make that happen. But as you said, I think that we pulled it off for our first one, and we learned a lot, and we're not going to stop doing it, but maybe once a year is cool.
yeah.
How was it from your viewpoint, Andy?
Yeah, honestly, for how many things go wrong, for us on a daily basis, like games crapping out in the middle of pinball tournaments, which happens all the time, uh, power outages or whatever, all these, like, I was, first of all, couldn't believe that nothing really went really wrong that day. Also, it was, my second point was that it was a really good way to force myself to learn a little bit more about streaming and like modern competitive gaming and esports and stuff like that. And I feel like we did a good job too. It was awesome. It was really fun. And the third one was, I am nothing makes me happier than meeting other arcade nerds from around the country. And it's always so amazing to realize that, like, once you they're just like you. And so we had just a bunch of people that were just so awesome, that cared so much about video games, hanging out with us the entire weekend. It was a dream come true.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I look forward so much to tournaments and conventions when we show off Galactic Battleground, because exactly like you said, like you get to meet other video game nerds in person. It's not just like
Yeah.
talking through comments and stuff. Like you actually
Yeah.
genuinely get to pick someone else's brain about something that they know more about than you know about. And tournament was great. First one I ever played in. Had a ton of fun. If you guys do it again, we definitely want to come back down and show off the game again. But I guess that's really everything I had for you guys. So we'll wrap it up. Let's go favorite game of all time, and then any shout outs you want to give to people in the community and social media links.
Ooh, all right.
Boy, are you? Can we pause it right now?
Yeah, you
Or
can take a second to think and we can edit. That's totally fine.
Because the favorite game of all time. That's a hard question. That's like what's your favorite food? It's like, um, boy, I'm gonna have to just. I'm gonna regret what I say, no matter what.
Is it Halo? Is it Moon Patrol? Is
Well,
it Attack from
I,
Mars?
I will, but okay. So there's like so many reasons why I like a game, but most of the ones I want to give you are because of nostalgia
That's
and
fine.
because of how I grew up and what we were playing. Um, you know, but I will say there's two games that got me hooked when I was young, and Moon Patrol. When I used to have to stay with my dad. My parents were separated, and I used to have to stay with my dad in the summer. And he lived in Podunk, small town, and there was this little gas station called the Shortstop, and they had corn dogs. I think they were 50 cents. You could get a corn dog, and then they had Moon Patrol, and I would steal so many quarters from my dad slowly, a few, maybe $1 a day, and and ride my bike down there and play Moon Patrol. And I got pretty good at it when I was a kid. I mean, what I thought was good, I was not good. And so that really kind of but that was, I don't even know what year that was. I mean, shoot. So that one has a soft spot in my heart, and no one likes it, so it's fine. But my first pinball that I that I actually learned that you could be good at pinball instead of just let it not go down. There was a little convenience store near where I lived that we would ride our bikes to, and it happened to be roller games. There's a reason I have roller games today, and that was because I was seeking that one out because I knew it was a good game, but it also had like a soft spot because that was the one where I was like, wait, I can replay on this game, sell my replays, and then go put that, or spend it or whatever. And that is like the only reason I'm choosing those, because of nostalgia. Are they the best games ever made? No, definitely not. I mean, it's a lot of console games I've spent way more time with, and that list is epic too. I don't know if I could choose that, but in the arcade, the only reason I would choose those is because, I mean, the 80s and 90s. That's it.
I think those are good picks. Let's see what Andy has to say.
All right, so arcade, I think I'm going to say something probably Galaga or Miss Pac-Man. I mean, kind of lame. It's like when you ask somebody what their favorite metal band is, like you're obligated to say Black Sabbath. So like beyond that, I really love Popeye, the arcade game. That's a polarizing one. Here in my collection, Kaboom for the Atari 2600 or Beat 'em and Eat 'em. Those are my two favorite carts that I play all the time. They're kind of similar games. Go ahead and Google Beat 'em and Eat 'em. Have fun with that.
Well,
Or don't.
I think those are excellent games. I love Moon Patrol. I think it's a good game too. But I just when it comes to favorite games for me too, it's always nostalgia. Like I'm not gonna say like this is the best game because everybody loves it. Like the emotion that's tied to the game and the memories of the game are why they make them my favorite games for sure. So social media links for you guys. I'm gonna throw them all down in the description. That's Beercade2, Omaha, Nebraska. Super fun place. There's not a lot to do in Nebraska from what I know. I'm from Minnesota, so there's not really a lot to do here.
Oh, give me a minute. I can correct that. We're right by a beautiful zoo.
Yeah, the zoo is incredible, I hear, but we didn't make it to it. We spent too much time at the arcade. So
well, you heard correctly. I'll just say
ever in Nebraska and you're near Omaha, you got to go to Beercade2. Check it out. And then if you like what we're doing here in Indie Arcade Wave, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll just keep bringing videos for you, keep the wave going. And until next time, peace.